You're listening to the Business and Life Podcast, where 7 days a week, proven entrepreneurs share their success stories, failures, and give you true value on how you can build a great business and an awesome life. With your host, Mike Olivas.
Here. And, I thought the idea was amazing. We were getting great receptivity from customers, and I decided to join full-time as the CEO back in the middle of 2018. So about a year and a half after I invested in the company. So continued to invest, but also taking more of an operational role, building the team, and it's exciting times. Things are really starting to take off for us.
Awesome. So give us a little bit more background about maybe, or let's talk about the struggle aspect. You've worked with a lot, or maybe it could be your story or someone else's that you felt you've seen, or that you have seen an example of just someone hitting rock bottom from their entrepreneur. A lot of our listeners are, let's say, aspiring entrepreneurs, those that are entrepreneurs that have a mid-range sized business that want to scale it and bring it to the next level. What is some advice of the failures that you've seen out there or that you've had yourself?
Yeah, when you've been around as long as I have, you've had a lot of ups and downs. So, and a lot of heartbreak, heartbreak
Sure.
As it relates to life, heartbreak as it relates to companies. And I guess one of the things is you've got to develop that attitude of perseverance, even in times of difficulty and struggle. I'll give you an example. So, we were taking Entropic public back in December of 2007. And this is after the subprime meltdown had kind of started to occur, and press came out about that about 2 months before. So when we would visit portfolio managers and mutual funds, who are going to be the biggest shareholders in Entropic, they're basically hiding under their desks. So we're driving into New York City in this big Cadillac Escalade, anticipating, pricing the IPO that night. And we got a call from our bankers, and they said that we had a failed IPO. We weren't going to be able to go public.
Wow.
And it was devastating. It was really, really difficult. But instead of just giving up, we asked the bankers a lot of questions about what the feedback was and talked to our board, and we decided to go one more day kind of smiling and dialing from the top floor of the Credit Suisse building in New York. The original IPO we were marketing in the $9 to $11 price range. We were going to raise about $100 million. We ended up reducing the price range to $6 to $8 and reduced the number of shares we were going to sell. And we were able to get it done. So,
Wow.
Kind of the super highs and the super lows. And, then for the next year and a half, of course, the market continued to disintegrate. But we weathered the global financial crisis, the global meltdown, and we're able to get through that and kind of thread the needle and make the company very successful over time.
I think that goes to show with your, just with your overall experience, Patrick, and that comes with time. I speak with new entrepreneurs and, veteran entrepreneurs. And I'd say that, what makes you a veteran entrepreneur? I'd say sometimes maybe either after some M&A that's in the world that you start really seeing the A to Z of it. If there is an acquisition and or starting and selling companies on your own. And I've noticed personally that at some point you see what you just discussed, where there's a tragedy and you find a strategy around this tragedy to make that still work. Now, it might not have been what the end result you wanted, but you still made it work, which is pretty awesome. And sometimes I think that when some people have asked me before in the past, what happens, what is the best thing about being an entrepreneur? And I said, well, sometimes it's not even about business. It's learning that if I lost it all, I'll figure it out. Yeah. And I hate to say, it's not a cocky thing to say, but you would be in the same boat. I'll figure it out, because the processes and procedures and workflows to do so if you need to, right? And I think that's really cool and powerful, of course, for those that are listening. That's kind of sometimes a pat on the back that you have the confidence to do so. So what are you currently excited about, Patrick, in your industry with the business right now with Grow Guru?
Well, we're really starting to hit some critical milestones this quarter as it relates to customer adoption and financial performance. So customers are loving what we're doing. Our leading customers, that I like to call teaching customers, have been extremely helpful in helping us refine the product and meet, the massive market that's out there. There's just in the U.S., there's 313 million acres of crops and about 52 million of that is irrigated. So it's a massive market opportunity. So super exciting time for us.
So who are your customers?
Our end customers are farmers.
Okay.
So basically, you would think that these are big corporations, but the vast majority of farmers in the U.S. are multi-generational family farmers.
Yes.
And we sell to them through a dealer network that we're building now.
Great. Make sure after this call that I introduce you to some of those that I know out in Central California. I'd love to see if if it's a win-win for them, that'd be awesome because they're like family to me.
Awesome.
What's the end game? Are you building Grow Guru to as an acquisitional model? Are you building it to really just help and continue to help and turn it into an engine? Yeah,
I mean, most companies that are successful that are, you've got basically small to medium-sized businesses that are really either solopreneurs or those types of things. And then I've never had one of those companies. We typically raise outside capital. So eventually you do want an exit, whether it's an M&A transaction, you sell the company, or it's an IPO. I think, in history, when I was running Entropic, there was about a 90% chance that we would sell the company, maybe 95%, and a 5% chance we would take the company public.
Okay.
We just were on a tear, and taking it public was really the only viable option to unleash the value of the company. So I think the likely exit is M&A. There's also a different environment now where you can actually be very successful and have a company purchased by private equity. So that's another way to have an exit that are more financial buyers versus strategic buyers. So that's out there as well. But I think the likelihood is the company eventually gets bought, 5 to 7 years down the road after we build it up and try to make it into something that really helps service customers, service the farmers.
Life Nation, we're all striving towards different goals. Maybe your goal is to finally quit the 8 to 5 grind, quit your job, or take the next step with your existing business. Whatever the goal may be, regardless of your reasons, if you are serious about taking the next step and finally trying to build the life that you deserve, the life that you want to live, take the leap of faith. Go to michaelolivas.com and let's discuss your goals and life. It's 100% free. There's no obligation. It's michaelolivas.com. Schedule a quick call. I'd love to help. Well, I like speaking with people that have had the experiences that you have in the business world, Patrick. And I asked this question about the podcast is called The Business and Life, right? And I kind of always sometimes will mention, like, at the end of the day, life wins. And so business is fun. And once you start learning it and understanding the process of it, your wins are progresses, right? So, but what is light at the end of the tunnel for you? How are these businesses serving your life? Do you feel like, hey, listen, I just love what I do, so I keep doing it? Or obviously you've had the M&As in your world and the acquisitions, so you most likely are just doing it for a passion aspect of it. What is the end game for you, for Patrick?
Yeah, I mean, that's kind of a funny question for me, I guess, because I've kind of had it all, so to speak.
Sure, yeah, absolutely.
I accomplished every goal that I had for myself by the time I was 40 years old, and I'm now in my mid-50s. And, I had what I thought were some pretty lofty goals. And since that time, I've had a lot of ups and downs. We've had some business successes. I've gone through a divorce. I've got a lot of kids. So like you said, life happens. I think now, I still have that passion and desire for winning. And that's one of the reasons why I do what I do. But it's kind of different now. I want to do more for my family, more for the community. I want my team to experience what it feels like to win big. And it's just an exciting journey. And I'm very grateful to have the life that I have. It's pretty amazing.
Absolutely. Tell some our listeners or give us some advice on why you think the entrepreneurs out there that you've worked with, or some that you've come across or the businesses, why they've failed.
It sounds stupid, but it's because it's really hard.
No,
and I cover a lot of it in my book, Plan, Commit, Win. But honestly, I think a lot of kind of so-called entrepreneurs don't even have a plan. Of course, you need to move forward. You need to have action steps. You need to have a bias towards action. But without a plan, you don't know where you're going, and you can't measure success. And you'll likely need to adapt that plan based on customer feedback and market feedback, but that isn't an excuse to not have a plan.
Right.
your first product might need to be scrapped or dramatically changed based on that feedback that you get from customers. But as it relates to the company, you have to have set in your mind that failure isn't an option. Right. And I know this goes counter to this, fail fast. I think that's probably a more appropriate saying for investors than it is for an entrepreneur.
Yeah.
Or maybe more appropriate to having a willingness to adapt in the face of customer and market feedback. I personally call that learning, not failure.
Sure.
But when you go out of business, that's failure. And I'm not saying stick with something even if you determine that it's a bad idea, but see if there's a way to adapt and even pivot to meet customer needs instead of saying fail fast. I prefer to say don't give up before the miracle happens.
Right.
Creating something out of nothing is nearly impossible. And unless you're totally committed to its success, there's no way in the world you'll ever make it happen.
Right.
It takes a lot of hard work, a plan of action, a commitment to success, survival in the face of adversity. All of those things are necessary. And you need to have a great team and that passion to service customers and solve big problems and a willingness to adapt along the way.
That's great advice. I think that it's similar to obviously the books and the quotes that we read, but what you mentioned before is something that I think everyone I speak to on this podcast says, which is the bottom line is, and it's great because it's consistent. It's hard work.
Yeah.
And when I do my coaching and advising to clients, a lot of the times it's the same way. It's just, listen, you have to have either the why or the reasoning behind it, because if it's not, it's going to be easier to give up, but you got to start risking, right? And I think the failing, the risking, all that kind of comes into the same angle where people aren't, they're afraid either to spend their own money, to spend other people's money sometimes as well, to risk more, to test more. And the faster you learn what it is that actually sticks and works, the faster you can get better and being focused at your craft, I think, from that business perspective. But that's great advice. Tell our listeners, if you had to give one piece of advice in terms of just the entrepreneurship journey and your experiences in life, like what would that one piece be that you'd give to aspiring entrepreneurs out there and those that have their own businesses right now?
Yeah, and it kind of dovetails off of what you were just saying there. You know, have a commitment to learning. Get a mentor. Stay coachable. Always be willing to learn. When you put yourself in a position to learn, assume that you don't or may not already know the answer. You know, you have to have that receptivity. Build a great team with the right technical, business, and domain expertise. Think about Mission Impossible or Ocean's 11. Join a mastermind group, read books, listen to podcasts, stay committed to learning and growing. It's really the only way to win.
Absolutely. Where can people find you out on the web right now? Would you like them to go to a website, social media? If someone wants more information about Grow Guru, where can they go? Yeah,
so you can look either on Medium or on questfusion.com for my blog. If you want to learn more about Grow Guru, it's growguru.com. And on LinkedIn, I'm Patrick Henry, Grow Guru. So those are a few ways to find me.
There it is. Patrick, thank you for dropping all of the knowledge that you just did. I think that's going to be there's a lot of huge value bombs that you were able to give to our listeners, and I appreciate your time today.
You bet. Thank you so much.
Life Nation, you got to remember that in order for things to change, you must change. And in order for things to get better, you must get better. You just got better by hanging out with me, Michael Libas, and the Business and Life Nation. So come back tomorrow because I'm here dropping sound bombs 7 days a week, baby. If you'd like to subscribe, please do, so you can take action and execute. See you tomorrow.